Before we can begin to discuss the nature of the state and its legitimacy, we need to establish some fundamental truths about reality, or at least the assumptions I argue are fundamental truths. If we are to reach any true conclusions, the reason I have included Rousseau in this subtitle may be immediately clear to some, but I suspect that the exact point I will be making and how it ties in with fundamental truths may not be a perspective you've considered before. The debate within Enlightenment philosophy, the dichotomy of social constructivism versus biological determinism, shapes individual beings. However, many fail to realize that it is a foundational disagreement within the modern West, leading to a fundamental misalignment on the state of reality between many ideological groups. Rousseauian social constructivism assumes human nature is inherently good, and its faults lie at the feet of society and its institutions. This perspective maintains a pseudo-religious belief that all inequities and failures of individuals within a society must therefore be consequences of the perceived power structure, whether real or imaginary. This leads to an endless cycle of state destruction and intervention. It is no coincidence that Rousseau was a French philosopher and consequently helped influence the cycles of violence that punctuated the French Revolution. This assumption of human nature, while benign or admirable it might seem, is the fundamental root of much of the violence derived from ideologies like socialism and communism. These ideologies operate on the truth that humans are inherently good creatures, but also that they are purely socially constructed and largely molded by society. Hence, they can be utilized by an all-encompassing state as more of a resource or animal than an individual with independent agency. This fundamental truth, as far as I can surmise, is wrong. However, this does not make Thomas Hobbes and his solution of a totalitarian government to ward off the state of nature correct either. He was merely more accurate in his assumptions about human behavior and nature being rooted in our biological origins. Since the 20th century, and further confirmed as we entered the 21 Stone century, scientific research into genetics, evolutionary biology, and psychology has shown that human thinking and behavior have a strong basis in genetics and biological disposition. For example, it is not a coincidence that taller, traditionally attractive people, independent of education and intelligence, make more money and maintain higher social status on average. To act as if we, as human beings, have escaped literal hundreds of millions of years of biological predisposition and habits is complete folly and displays great hubris. While we are capable of great rationality and are often influenced by our surroundings, we are intrinsically driven by genetics to an extent that cannot be ignored. This is where the primary misalignment on reality begins, and has led to the point where individuals cannot agree on something as fundamentally straightforward as biological sex. Many contend that it is purely informed by genetics and biology, while others state it has its basis in socially constructed concepts like gender, a purely Rousseauian interpretation of reality that more recently might have its direct basis in French postmodern philosophy. However, such a worldview could never have existed without the initial assumptions put forward by Rousseau in The Social Contract and Discourse on the Origin and Basis of Inequality Among Men.